It's time to come together for another surf report. This one for the first week of September 2022, of course. And with that, who wants some T-squares? We got lots of T-squares this week. We have the sun, obviously, is already in Virgo, a lot of Virgo energy. In addition to that, we have Venus coming in to the mix, and that'll actually be the overlap with the astrology. So astrology, not a heavy amount of Virgo other than the sun and Venus, but the I-Ching says, yes, Venus and Virgo is a big ordeal. And then the dream bot just happens to be really correlated right there. So you have an overlap with the I-Ching, and the dream bot has a little bit more, and a lot of different ways that dream bot can go. I'll show you that here in a second. But I think the biggest news and the biggest overlap across all of our technologies is this coming together. And it could be like sort of some hardship, because after all, you've got 5 retrograde planets this week, and then next week you got Mercury, or next surf week you're going to have Mercury going into retrograde. That will make 6. You have all these T-squares, and you have Uranus over the North Node, which is really, change is Uranus. So fast change. It's a fast ball game. And as we head into the future, and that produces some anxiety. And so you put all that together, and there's reasons for this coming together, and that's going to be challenges. One of those T-squares is Saturn, which, is going to produce some challenges right there. It's like pressure with challenge and lack, limitations, etc. So all that being said, there's going to be a lot of influences this week to maybe not force us to come together. It's just going to be natural urge to come together. All right. Yeah. So with that, let's just go ahead and get started. And as I get my highlighter out, I wanted to give a big shout out to all of our surf family who has laying down lots of comments, and so many I can't go over them today. It just would take too long, but I really want to say that I appreciate all these lovely comments, and even including talking about your personal experiences with these surf energies, also dreambot analysis and your I'm just the gambit. And so thank you. And so the winner for this week, the best comment as indicated by the 7 ups, is John Doe. First of all, thank you for doing this report. We appreciate it. As such, we also appreciate all the concern you have for getting us the report, but take it easy on yourself. That was, ironically, the surf was take care of yourself, rejuvenate, take some time. You need not stress on the time that your report is released, just that it is enough for us. We will wait no matter how long it takes. I really appreciate this, John Doe, and I know you do speak for a lot of the folks out there, but it's important for me to get it out, and I do have this dedicated window for myself on Wednesdays, so I'm sort of under my own time crunch. Now, I am getting better at troubleshooting. We're having similar situations this week as last week. No audio problems, but video problems. So that got fixed fairly quickly, and here we are. All right. So let's go over to the DreamBot really quick. This is the summary slide. And let's zoom in and look at this. No, it's not brain. It's Brian 101. That's a surge score of over 100 points. And that's by far a lot bigger than the next surge score, which is only 43.7, which is gun. So we have the top words are Brian, which is exploding at 101 surge score, which that's very rare, by the way. So Brian, what do we make of that? I'm thinking my first thought was Brian Stelter, sort of getting axed off of CNN. But there was another news article, and I forgot to put that up. I was busy troubleshooting, but there's a rookie who in the NFL. I'm not a big NFL guy. I used to be, not anymore. And so apparently he gets shot. And so Gunn Brian is a rookie who I can't remember, Washington, the NFL team, Washington. And so anyway, it's almost like a day residue from that news, but that shooting was apparently from a car. So it was like driving. So interesting. I don't know if there's going to be some other news come out with a Brian and a gun or a shooting at an apartment or a dorm. Those two go together really well, don't they? Dorm and an apartment, and then yelling. So I don't know if this is more predictive of something else or just sort of an energy that was more of a day residue into people's dreams. Don't know. We shall find out. But the meme that I picked out here is the red, and it has to do with family. Mentioned extended family. Brian is a connection. It's a human being. A lot of these things have to do with humans. Apartments where humans live. Dorm where humans live. Yelling, what people do, what humans do. I guess you can be yelling at inanimate objects, but yelling most of the time, there's another human there. Married, obvious. Emotional, obvious. Connections. Extended family. I guess you could have dogs as extended. Anyway, this is commensurate with humans and human life and connection and where we're living. The blue arrow is things that hold stuff. And so backpack and cart and locker. There's all sorts of things. You could almost go into a hunting meme with gun and tower, but it wasn't real strong. And like backpack, but sort of iffy. I mean, the connection as an extended family is sort of iffy. Had to include a bunch of different memes in there to get to that conclusion, but it really does overlap the I-Ching quite a bit. That's the primary meme. But I'd be looking out for gun. As we know, guns are on the hot seat right now in Washington, D.C. But what do you make of this Brian? What do you guys make of that? Is it day residue from CNN or is it something else? All right. Here's the overview of September. Welcome to September 2022. I'm recording this on the last day of August 2022. First bit of news, look at all that retrograde. And that does not even include Mercury, because Mercury is right here. And see, it starts its red right here. So it's the next CIRF week. Mercury, and one of the comments last week was they're already feeling the Mercury retrograde. That was 2.5 weeks prior. So wonder if that is getting stronger for you. You can see here Venus is going into Virgo this week. We already mentioned that. What's not real apparent is the T-square. So here's one side of it. It's hot because Uranus is retrograde and Saturn is retrograde, both of these. And so you can see the intensity of that red is slightly getting darker. So it's getting hotter as we go. It's already within 2 degrees. I think you think less than that. So real tight square. So you've got status quo conflicted, pressurized with freedom and uniqueness and just leave me alone. And those are at odds. Those are conflicted right now, obviously, and this is the alignment of protest, if there is one in astrology. So anyway, a lot of those T-squares that didn't show up were for the moon, but our first T-square on Thursday, the 1st, and let me darken this for you. And let me take a sip of tea. Delicious. Unsweetened, by the way, but I sweeten it with licorice root and anise, which taste very sweetened. Otherwise, it's green and black tea combination, as well as some other things for some other specific ends in my body. All right, T-square on Saturn. So what we have here is a dual, a pressurized, conflicted focus on Saturn. It's the battle for the status quo. It's a battle for the foundation, and a big focus on lack and what we don't have and challenges. Everything's Saturn. And the two contenders are the emotions, the moon in the past. That's the south node. And so that's one side of our T-square. And the other side is the future. It's the north node and Uranus, the one we've been talking about for several weeks now. It is, so the past versus the future, the emotional past versus the unexpected future, right? But it's profound because emotions do signify more of the past. It's the mirror to the past. It's your cord to past material. It's memory. And so we don't want to keep recreating this, do we? And so versus the promise of a better future, of a unique future, of a free future, liberating. So that's what we have the first couple of days in this CIRF week. And then we also have the sun square over to Mars. And let's see, 6 and 9 degrees. So this is the last we'll mention that one because it's waning. They were about 3 degrees off, and it's the sort of the pressure to do stuff, the pressure to be nimble and adaptable in your tasks and manifestation. But the bigger news here is probably, because this is really tight, this is only 1 degree off, is Mercury trine Mars. Okay, and so that's easy to think logically about what you're doing. It's rational, adaptable yang or manifestation or doing, because we got Mars in Gemini and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So easy energy back home. That makes thoughts which are balanced and fair. So that's a really nice alignment, but it's convoluted with all these other energies. So I don't know how much of us are going to tune into that, but that should be tight. It should be strong because it's a trine, easy energy. And so the other thing we're going to see here is Mercury oppose Jupiter. Excuse me. And what we have there is the balance between the lower mind, Mercury, logic, rational, and the higher mind. Jupiter is wise, philosophical, and experienced and spiritual, higher level living. Higher mind, lower mind. Those have to be balanced. So you can be thrown challenges to force you to have to balance those out. That can be like kind of a child parent in your own beingness. So, your little kid wants to go have fun and then the parent steps in. Oh, come on, we need to do some work. So you have that be toying with most of this week, and that goes exact here pretty soon. And then, by the way, I didn't show you in the bar for Mercury. It's Mercury opposed Jupiter, goes exact this week, right in the middle, so on the weekend. And then Mercury will go retrograde and then hit it again, hit an exact opposition to Jupiter again. So whatever you feel here, going to be very similar in a couple of weeks. All right. So we go into Friday. Now we have a T-square on this south emotional north node moon. South node, emotional past, all that stuff. Pressure and focus. So now the pressure and focus is still on Saturn because you've got the two squares, but you also have the only T-square here technically is Venus opposed Saturn in a T-square on the past. So the focus is on the past. It's short-lived because it's the moon here. And on we go. Now, Saturday, we have a T-square on the sun. So the sun still got that remaining square on Mars. The moon makes it square with the sun. So now the focus is on ego. And this brings us back to more of this Virgo-ness, right? So now the focus is shifting onto ego, which is a lot more discerning, a lot more detail-oriented, self-care, to-do lists, tasks, obligations, and analytical. And then you can see Venus now, last few hours, days of Leo, and is going to be heading into Virgo, which is what's going to solidify more of our extended family. So let's move on. And there we go. At 11:04 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time, Sunday the 4th, in the evening, Venus will be going into Virgo. So when you wake up on Monday morning, if you're in the United States or thereabouts in that time frame, you can expect to feel this Virgo energy a lot more dominant. You've got the sun that's been there for 12 degrees, and now Venus as well. Venus obviously representing more of relationships and closer relationships. But now we're thinking about all those things I mentioned before. So your obligations, should is a really good word for Virgo. And maybe for some people, OCD and perfectionism might be in there, but in relation to relationships, how you relate to others. And so this could bring in some specific tasks and shoulds and obligations in terms of your relationships. The focus is on extended family. That's that dominant energy that the I-Ching and the DreamBot has afforded us that overlap. What else do we have on Sunday the 4th? We also have a T-square on the moon. So it's back to moon focus or Capricorn emotions, more to doing. This is a trine. This is with the trine over to Venus that we just talked about. So this easy energy of earth signs, easy doesn't mean good or feeling pleasant. It could feel easy to feel very obligated and task-oriented, maybe overwhelmed. Emotions in Capricorn is like overwhelmed with all the things I've got to do. It's similar for Venus is trying to just be beautiful and harmonious, but if I'm being beautiful in Virgo, that's going to take an enormous amount of work in front of the mirror. So this is just like all these details in the minutia with the trine over to your emotions in Capricorn with a T-square on it. On Monday now, we're starting to get a little bit of opening up, although we still have that remnants of the T-square on the moon. But you can start to see a Grand Trine developing. So you can see all the squares except for that one with Uranus and Saturn. All of them are dashed, which means that they're waning. They're on their way out, including this T-square on the moon. In fact, on the evening of Monday the 5th, I don't have the exact time here, but in the PM, I'm not even the evening, as the moon progresses just a little bit further. Let's see, to get within, so it's 9 degrees away from Uranus at noon. So it just needs another hour probably. So we're looking at afternoon and evening of Monday the 5th. You're going to have a grand Earth trine develop, and that's going to last all the way into the AM of Tuesday, most of the AM, so up until noon on Tuesday the 6th. And with a grand Earth trine, especially with our main members of Sun and Moon as part of that, and then Uranus and North Node. This is finally feel grounded in the change of the material world in the future. And so this can finally feel a little bit optimistic, hopeful, but not too emotional. It's more of, in our emotions in a grounded state, like a copper rod into the ground. It's grounded, so it takes out all the electricity. The Earth just sucks that in, and it doesn't electrify the Earth. The Earth just accepts it, takes it from you. So you feel plugged in, you feel grounded, you feel like you can be engaged in the real material world without too much emotional conundrums, I guess. So starting on Mondays when it starts to break free. And then on Tuesday, I don't have this here because by noon, the grand Earth trine is ended. You still got these major players, a lot of players in Earth signs. We got Venus and Sun still in Virgo. And now you got Moon and Pluto. Moon last few hours, but most of this morning was also the grand Earth trine. And on Wednesday, it shifts over to a grand air trine. So shifts over to mental. This nice grounded feeling was allowing you to relax. Grounded feels more relaxed. And we get a little bit more, probably a little bit more anxious because air signs are more anxious, but you can really get a lot of focus. You've got on these points of air trine, you've got the Moon, Mercury, and Mars. And it's fairly tight here, at least at noon. Only 2 degrees away, less than 2 degrees away for the trine on Mercury and Mars. So that's easy energy to be able to think logically in a fair and balanced way. That's kind of nice, right? And in a logical way to be able to apply that to getting stuff done. And in a very adaptable way. It probably takes shorter projects, and that matches the I-Ching as you'll see later. So smaller projects work well with Gemini, not these big, bold moves, but small steps forward. So that you can at least finish them, have a chance at finishing them. And then obviously the emotions in Aquarius. So emotions in Aquarius is it's a nice place for emotions to be. Although if you go to an extreme, you get really dysfunctionally distant from the emotions. We don't want to do that because we can use these emotions in a very air sort of way, which is we can transform those emotions into knowledge or some knowing, intuitiveness in order to carry out your activity. It's going to be a very rational approach of emotions. Emotions and rational are synergistic, which is very pleasant. Nice. So hopefully not too much anxiety there. But it's always possible when you're looking at air signs. All right. Extended family is what the I-Ching proposed as the influence. A harmonious family is a team that symbolizes the ideal of human interdependence. That's what we're focused on. That's what the I-Ching was showing us with Venus going into Virgo, is what is your place in this world. And as you know, I think Virgo is a little bit more, I don't mean this in a bad way, or it can be bad, but more of a self-centered focus, meaning taking care of myself. It's service to self, which in order to be balanced, you do need some of that. You can't just be a complete Pisces where you're sacrificing everything all the time to everyone. You need half of Virgo, which is taking care of yourself. And in doing so, you're going to see that there is that natural human interdependence. Even though you're doing things for yourself, everything you do does, ironically, affect others. It ripples out into the collective, and we are interdependent. So the healthy family is an embryo of community and a native soil in which ethical values take root and grow. Fertilize this soil, and the entire society benefits. Okay, the forces that bind a family are a balance of feminine and masculine. Relations on all kinds of teams are improved through cultivation of yin and yang, open, focused balance. That really speaks to the Mercury in Libra, to be able to understand the balance that is required for this week. It behooves you to attend to the needs of your team, right? Not a big Virgo trait, but we're talking about Venus and Virgo. So we're combining those. It's about relationships. And in Virgo, it's very discretionary. You're going to be able to see what the needs are and attend to them. All right. For some, that'll be very challenging. But it's not like you're going to see it less. You're going to see it. All right. When you put the change in, the change line, you get small influences. That's hexagram 9. So we're going into the solution now. Softer influences predominate as the power of smaller voices accumulate, making this a time for smooth and friendly persuasion. Gentleness is the key word here regarding whatever is on your mind right now. Gentleness combined with determination is likely to generate more progress than brute force ever could. And that does match the Mars that we have in Gemini, which we talked about earlier. Is it's easier to be determined when you've got potentially a lot of different little projects instead of one big, huge, bold one. But in this one, we are talking about your extended family or your interconnectedness to the collective, which is, if we're on the same page, those small influences, those small voices, when broadcast out, even though each individual voice is small, now becomes this very loud, potentially obnoxious voice that is intimidating. But it's the synergy of it all together. So now I put in our conversion chart, we put in Venus going into Virgo, and we get hexagram 29 in the rave, and we get Leo again. And so 29 is the abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. So this is the first indication that finally overlaps with all these T-squares, those pressures, especially towards the beginning of the week. At the beginning of the week, you have more challenges, pressure, conflict, and then it shifts more to these Grand Trines, which it should feel kind of like a lightening, a lightening of the energy, and so make things a little bit seamless for you, less anxiety, less challenging. And but the rave says, hey, don't overlook these challenges, because persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. Don't just slide past these difficulties, okay? Now, the actual line is 6, confusion, the state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. So this means to me that, according to the rave, the T-squares are going to take away any of the, not completely take away, but they're going to offset those really positive potentials that we saw across the zodiac for this week. In other words, they're going to confuse. So reading this says, driving blind and giving Mars energy and determination, often blind luck, the power to persevere that makes no sense. In other words, you shouldn't be continuing or to persevere on this particular topic, but you don't know it because you've lost your awareness and you just keep on doing it. Maybe in hindsight, you finally figure out, wow, stayed in that project way too long. On the downside, it says a tendency to, in confusion, to withdraw rather than accept the condition and continue to persevere. So stopping too early. So in this rave, it's all about how to do things and methodically continue and in a determined fashion, but know when to stop and know when to say no and know when to keep going when you should be keeping going. It's that balance that's really, really, really required. All right. You ready for the solution? All right. So who knows what this picture is and why is it here? All right. You get it? You guys get it? Coming together. It should be probably come together. Does that ring a bell? Who are these people? So this is the influence of coming together more of because we have to, but it's that Virgo Venus that says you should, and you can see the needs and the interconnectedness. It's not a surrogate for Pisces, because Pisces can see this naturally, the interconnectedness of everything, but it's more of an obligation and details and needs that Virgo really shines. So it's duty. Excuse me. It's duty. Emphasis is on Virgo, but especially the transition of Venus into Virgo. Relationships feel more obligated, more task-oriented. We will yearn for balance and harmony through modesty, critical thinking, and details. Those are Virgo-type things. Several T-squares pressurize emotions and challenges and ego. And so that's Moon, Sun, Saturn, I believe, if I got all those right, and maybe one more. Uranus continues shaking up the future over the North Node, and we have I-Ching of 37. All right. Here we have, remember the I-Ching 9 small influences? This across the board, it overlaps with everything that we have read, including Mars and Gemini. Small influences, gentleness is mandatory but determined. Subtle influences will be more effective than overt, bold actions because the abysmal persistence despite difficulties has its rewards. But we have confusion, the state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. So as you're doing things, you're going to potentially, with these challenges, get sidetracked and forget to continue to pay attention to your balance point. You're going to be needing to stop projects when it's the right time. You need to keep going when you think you want to stop. It has to be in balance. And that's a fine line. And then you have Sidereal Leo. So of the 3 solutions this week, the rave probably has the best overall context for the forward moving action that is recommended for us. Overall, it's going to be confusing and it might be easy to get out of balance in your perseverance and determination. The inferred recommendation from the rave is to maintain great awareness, or else you'll find yourself in wrong action, either doing too much or not starting right action, meaning not starting when you should be starting. Both will get you out of balance. Meanwhile, the I-Ching warns against bold action, but instead determined, smaller steps. And I want to add in there that it should be, well, it might be better when we're in resonance with the interconnectedness of others. Okay. I'll talk more about that here in a second. The Sidereal Leo solution agrees with the gentle, friendly, and kind as the I-Ching does, but watch out for being authoritarian, domineering, and even lazy, because it's not a do-nothing week. But Leo is a great sidereal solution this week because of its ability to be, charismatic. There is a interconnectedness that we got to worry about. Organized, creative, friendly, optimistic, and influential. So it can create a resonance. The other key ingredient this week is the use of like minds or collective synergies. If we all clap lightly in the same space, it sounds very loud in the collective. Small influences in resonance. So if we're all doing small influences, but we're not doing it similarly or not in resonance, or intentions are all different, then it's not very meaningful. It's not very profound. If we get everybody on the same page, there's less that we have to do. Not that we want to be lazy, but it sure makes a bigger difference when we're all on the same sheet of music. So the mantra that I would like to try this week is, I create collective resonance. So mindfully, not being swayed by the collective. That's not how my Aquarian nature works. But I don't want to be too Aquarian this week. I don't want to be too unique and too out there. I do want to be at least somewhat on the same page of the values that I have chosen for my life, what are important to me. I want to find like minds and resonate with them. Make things a lot easier. All right. I think of the CIRF reports. I think, in my opinion, I don't know about you all, but I think this week was a little bit more confusing than most, and that has to do with just the sheer amount of different types of energies that are swirling around in the zodiac. And it just seem like they're all over the place. But that's why we do these triangulations, just to get the big gist of things so that you can get the 80% solution. It's not perfect, but it will be the bulk of hopefully both the influence, what you're going to expect to feel, but then how to act. And in this case, maintain your conscious awareness as you're doing small steps forward this week, being mindful about two things: the collective interconnectedness resonance, and two, what the balance point is in your steps forward, in your right action. Okay. And for that, people can benefit by knowing your human design authority, or you can follow your higher power, or you can follow your intuitive body. Whatever works for you, has been consistently working for you, then use it this week, because that's going to be a very delicate one. The rave warns us that confusion of that will take over. It will strip away your ability to perceive when the right point is, when the balance point is. And that happens a lot when you're doing things because you're persistent. But remember, persistence despite difficulties has its rewards. So don't stop. Okay. Not big, bold actions, but not laziness either. All right. So you find your balance point, and by all means, resonate with like minds. With that, everybody, I appreciate everybody viewing these CIRF reports and giving me feedback. I appreciate y'all. Love and light. We will see you next week in another episode. Bye.